What is up, y'all? Welcome back to another video. In this video, I'm going to be answering a question I've seen a lot of Lions fans put out there. And the question is, will the Lions have enough pressure for 2020? Now, before we get to the video, I do want to give a shout out to my guy Gridiron Blitz. He actually did a video on, I think, if you guys want to have another pass rusher. So if you guys want to check that out, make sure you go do it. This one's a little bit different, I believe. But I did want to give him a shout out just in case they're too similar. Anyways, we're going to be talking about this question. Now, this question has come up a lot because I've even seen polls on this. People are putting out polls. What are you most concerned about for 2020? Well, the Lions may not get enough pressure. That's like the biggest concern for a lot of fans. Now, some people, it's, protecting Stafford. I'd probably fall into that category. But, for a lot of people, this is getting pressure. And I think it's a legitimate concern. It's really something that you can be concerned about. So we're going to be talking about that today. Will the Lions be able to get enough pressure in 2020? How will they do it? Let's get it started. All right, everybody, so the first thing we're going to do is look at the Lions roster. Everybody, you got to know what we got before we know what we're going to do. We have to know what that roster is looking like, okay? Mainly, we're going to be focusing on the defensive line here. I'll talk about a couple of linebackers, but we're going to be focusing on the defensive line. Starting off at the defensive end position, even though positions really don't matter too much, either on a D-line or you're not, I guess I would say, on this defense because everybody's moving around. But I guess technically at defensive end, you have Trey Flowers, Deshaun Hand, Romeo Cora, Jonathan Wynn. That's kind of what your defensive end looks like. You also have another kind of subcategory, which is like defensive end / potentially jack roll / potentially linebacker. Those guys would be Austin Bryant because he played linebacker in college as well. Jamie Collins, who I think will play more in the interior, but we've seen him a lot drop down to the edge position with New England. And also Julian Okwara, who we drafted in the 3rd round last year. That was Devon Kennard as the jack roll. Then when you look at the inside, your interior defensive linemen, you have Kevin Strong, Danny Shelton, John Atkins. You have Nick Williams, who some people think is going to be more of a defensive end. He definitely could be. You have the two guys we drafted, Jay Cornell and John Pennicini, and then you got Justin Herron, depending if he makes the team. So some of those guys will probably get cut, but that's what we're looking like on paper. I think I may have left out a few really far depth guys, but those guys won't make the team most likely. But that's what the Lions defensive line is looking like. So on paper, the depth looks pretty good. In the words of Bob Quinn, you can never have enough pass rushers. The depth is solid. The question is there enough talent there to get a lot of pressure? And when you look at it, and you're looking at starters, you're probably saying, okay, Shelton's a starter, Flowers a starter, maybe Romeo's a starter. I see Julian probably starting at the jack roll. Maybe Bryant starts. Do you have enough confidence those guys are going to get enough pressure consistently? Maybe not. Oh, and Deshaun Hand. I didn't say Deshaun Hand's name. I'm sorry, y'all. I think I passed right over Deshaun Hand. That's crazy. And Deshaun Hand. Obviously, Deshaun Hand. So maybe he'll start as well. But the Lions have enough pressure there. Are they going to get enough pressure from that down lineman when you're not blitzing a lot? Because we know Lions don't blitz under Matt Patricia. It's just not something that he does. It's not something that he's done in the 2 years he's been here. So we kind of just have to go with that and say, hey, he doesn't blitz a lot. And when you look at that, the Detroit Lions need to get pressure from that defensive line that's usually outnumbered. And you're getting a lot of one-on-ones, but in the interior, you're not getting a lot of pressure because if you guys watch my Pennicini video, the center and the guard are going to double-team someone. So then you need pressure from your pass rushers on the outside. Trey Flowers is probably going to be your most consistent pass rusher now with Kennard gone. But then on the other side, we have a lot of inconsistencies, right? Austin Bryant, Deshaun Hand. So we don't know what we're going to get, and that's why a lot of people want to bring in a veteran pass rusher, and I'm okay with that. I can definitely see why you'd want to do that. And when I talk about the Lions don't blitz a lot, it's not just a made-up stat, like it's a real stat. In the 2 years under Matt Patricia, they have been some of the lowest teams in the league in blitzing, okay? In 2019, which was last season, they finished 30th in the league in sacks, only totaling 28 sacks. 28 sacks on a season. We know we had one of the worst defenses in the league, so a lot of people say, well, why did we not just blitz more? Because, hey, it couldn't get much worse. Maybe if we blitzed, we could have at least made some quarterbacks uncomfortable, which I can see your point there for sure. But again, 18% of the time we were blitzing, which was one of the lowest in the league. I think it was 30th in the league. Yes, it was. And the two sack leaders were Devon Kennard and Trey Flowers, and Devon Kennard is no longer here. So there's definitely legit concerns that there can be made for this pass rush because it's like, oh my gosh, I really don't know if I can trust any of these guys aside from Trey Flowers. Then in 2018, where it gets kind of weird, is the Lions actually finished 12th. Yes, 12th in sacks. And they had 43 sacks on the season. However, they had a lower blitz percentage. Only 16.9% of the time did they blitz, but yet they had 15 more sacks on the season. So that's a huge difference. Now, I think some people would say, well, 2018, we had better cornerbacks. You might be able to make that argument. You could say the Lions had a better secondary in 2018. Maybe Darius Slay played better in 2018. Maybe he kept the ball in the quarterback's hands a little bit longer. Your sack leaders in 2018 were Romeo Cora with 7.5, who really didn't show up last season. Devon Kennard again with 7. Okay, this was before Trey Flowers, y'all. That's what's crazy. Jared Davis, who was like the one guy we actually did blitz because, again, we didn't blitz much at all. 6 sacks. Ziggy Ansah, 4 sacks. Across the board, Snacks Harrison, 3.5. Deshaun Hand, 3. Ricky Jean-Francois, I love saying that name, he had 2. So across the board, aside from Jaron Davis, it was that defensive line getting a lot of pressure. Now, was that the quarterback keeping the ball in their hands too long, or what was it? It could have definitely been. You could make a case the secondary was better if you wanted to, and you could make a case that this secondary is the best that we've had under Matt Patricia coming up this season, because we have Okudah, Trufant, Amani, Coleman. We got all these man-to-man guys, and if they can keep the ball in the quarterback hands longer, you'll get more sacks from some of these defensive line. But I've made the case a lot of times that I think Snacks opened up a lot of things, and when Snacks played well, as you can see here, one of his best seasons, graded out really well in getting pass rush, even not just statistically when you just watch him against the run, he was really good. And it opened up guys like Romeo, who went from 7.5 to 1.5 sacks, okay? 7.5 to 1.5. It helped Kennard, obviously, but Kennard's been pretty consistent. Davis was blitzed up the middle, and he was really good last season in 2018. Ziggy Ansah, 4 sacks. We don't have him anymore. So I think we just got a lot more pressure there, but again, we didn't blitz. So at least we've seen, that's the thing, at least we've seen that the Lions can get to the quarterback without blitzing. So that gives me a little bit of confidence that, hey, maybe if the secondary is built right, the Lions can get pressure. It just may be more coverage sacks than anything. And I'm okay with that because, you know, we have a lot of guys that are going to go one-on-one because a lot of times we bring 4 people. Our jack roll doesn't drop very often, all right? Julian Okwara won't drop. Devon Kennard didn't drop. Those guys aren't going to drop in coverage too often. Maybe here and there, usually they're going to come, and usually it's like 3 or 4 guys at least coming to the quarterback, and that leaves mostly one-on-ones. And now you're just hoping those guys win the one-on-one battles, and then you want your coverage guys to be able to hold up long enough to get basically a coverage sack. In 2018, that worked. Now, what I thought was interesting is that when I went to go look what the Patriots were doing, when, you know, before he came to the Lions, Matt Patricia was there, I really couldn't find the blitz percentage. I don't think they were even taking them into account. So I had to look at 2018 and 19, which is obviously when Matt Patricia wasn't there. But in 2019, which was last season, the Patriots had one of the best defenses in the league, if not the best defense in the league, right? And they blitzed a ton. So the thought is the narrative that, hey, Bill Belichick, you know, they don't blitz. That's not the Patriot way. But they blitz 37% of the time compared to our 18. That's a pretty big jump. And a lot of their sacks, which is very interesting, came from linebackers and pass rushers, not necessarily the defensive line like ours did. For example, Jamie Collins led the team in sacks with 7. We now have Jamie Collins on our team. Kyle Van Noy, who you could say is kind of like their jack roll, had 6.5 sacks. Butler, I think he is the defensive lineman, he had 6 sacks. A lot of linebackers were getting high sacks. Hightower, 5.5 sacks. All right, you're seeing those guys get a lot of sacks. So what I see here is that they did blitz. They blitzed a lot. And why did they blitz? Well, maybe it had something to do with losing Trey Flowers, right? After you lose Trey Flowers, maybe you blitz a lot. Maybe that's how you kind of back that up. But in 2018, when they did have Trey Flowers, they still blitzed 30.9% of the time, which is less than obviously in 2019. They still blitzed a ton, way more than Lions did. So maybe that's Matt Patricia's thinking, not necessarily Bill Belichick's thinking, is to not blitz. The thing is, the Detroit Lions have at least proven to us that at least it could work in 2018 somewhat if the defense tackle position plays well and maybe our secondary is better to hold up longer. So the Detroit Lions need more pass rushers. I don't think you can ever have too many. The unproven players is what makes me nervous, right? It does make me nervous. But then again, if you look at 2018, we saw guys step up that we weren't necessarily expecting to, right? Romeo Okwara, Jared Davis with 6 sacks, Ziggy Ansah with 4 sacks, Eli Harold with 4 sacks. So we're going to need that again in 2020. We're going to need some of those unproven players to step up. We're going to need the secondary to be better, and it has to be better. It should be better because, you know, you invested a lot into that. And maybe the Matt Patricia will blitz more, maybe with these new pass rushers, because like I mentioned before, I'm not sure if I did or not, but a lot of people thought that, hey, maybe the Lions are blitzing because they don't think they have good enough pass rushers to blitz. Well, maybe you didn't. You had Jelani Tavai, you had Jared Davis, you had a lot of young guys that were kind of just like, okay, I don't know what I'm getting here. But now you have Jamie Collins, who had 7 sacks for the Patriots before he came here. Maybe you blitz Jamie a lot. I could definitely see that. Maybe Jamie's coming. I think Okwara obviously comes because that's his job. Your defensive line is Flowers, who's going to give you 7 to 10 sacks if he's healthy. You know, now you got Danny Shelton, who's running the middle. Hopefully he can open some things up for some guys. And then you're going to have Deshaun Hand, Romeo Okwara. It's deep. It's deep. It's just that maybe the Lions will blitz now. Maybe now that they have more veterans. Maybe now that they have Duran Harmon. Maybe now that their secondary is better. They believe that their secondary can play one-on-one. Maybe we'll see that more, right? Maybe the secondary wasn't good enough in 2019 or 18, and they're just like, hey, I'm not going to blitz because if I blitz, my secondary can't hold up in the back end. So maybe it's the opposite way of thinking, right? Maybe they're thinking my secondary can't hold up, so I'm not going to blitz. But now they're like, okay, well, now that we're looking good, my secondary can give me, you know, a few seconds that the pressure will get here if I blitz. So we may see more blitzes in 2020. I really don't know what to expect. If there's one thing that Bill Belichick has shown us, he will blitz. Matt Patricia has not shown us that yet. So the question is, will he blitz? I'm not sure. I think we could definitely see a lot more of aggressive play style, especially knowing that he has to win games. And with the addition of some veterans and a really good secondary, I can see a lot more blitzing from Matt Patricia in 2020. We'll see if he does or not. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What will the Lions do differently in 2020? Thank you, Prep, for watching, and I'm out.